everyone. Welcome to Bridging Minds podcast. I am your host, Sarah Goff. I'm the founder of Bridging Minds Collective, where we talk about political conversations on a daily basis, and we promote civil political conversations between all parties. And we do that by learning skills for open-minded, healthy communication. That's called political wellness. Communication is the number one reason why relationships either thrive and bring joy to our lives or fail and leave us feeling misunderstood and bitter. And when we avoid the issues that we care about, we're actually silencing ourselves and denying ourselves our own voices. And, in doing that, we also are missing the opportunity to connect with the people to connect with people in general, but also the people that we really care about and want to share those sensitive topics with and express ourselves. So today we are going to talk about fear. And that is a broad topic, and it's a topic that I would say touches all of our lives. We are going to raise some of our toughest fears that we've overcome, or fears that we live with. And I think it's going to be really exciting to do that. And it might even be calming. A common part about fear, something is that comes up when I think of fear, is that it goes unrecognized. Sometimes we live with it and we allow it to shape our lives and our decisions, and we don't even know it's happening. We don't realize we're living according to our fears, and it's controlling us. So we're going to get to the heart of that. First, let's do a big welcome to David, our guest who is often with us, our returning guest, and to Randy. Both David and Randy are members of our Bridging Minds discussion group, which is on Facebook at Bridging Minds Collective. And let's see, David is a lover of philosophy and anything deep thinking. His screen is dark because he has very sensitive eyes to light. And Randy is a retired mechanical engineer. He has 2 grown children. I get the impression he's a real fun-loving grandfather to 3 grandchildren. And he's been city council president in his community for many years. He's been city commission chairman for many years. So he's an active guy, has a lot to share. Both welcome. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Yes. Let's start out. Let's just jump in with you, Randy. Mm-hmm. And let's hear some of your stories. Let's address one of your fears.
Okay. You asked about this just yesterday, and it just seemed to really resonate around me. And what I found about that was I tend to be a worrier. And in fact, as a project manager, my job is to worry about what could go wrong. So I could come up with 1,000 ways things can go wrong on any given day. And so what it does is it's great for project management, but it really hinders and controls your life if you let it take over. And then so when you asked about that, I go, wow, that's constantly the balance that I'm trying to make all the time. And mm-hmm. So the one that we wanted to probably start with is probably one that we all have, which is a fear of heights. My wife and I love to travel. We love to explore. We like to do new things. And then up here in the Seattle, Washington area, there's a whole lot of mountains, and they're spectacular up here. However, sometimes they get steeper than I'm comfortable with. And so I've actually taken technical rock climbing, taken climbing on glaciers specifically for me to practice and address the fears that I actually have. If I freak out on the side of a mountain, that is not good at all. So I actually have had to teach myself how to take the deep breath, how to calm down, how to walk up to it, and then try not to worry about it days in advance. Because that does no good for anybody. I'm not always successful at it, but that's what happens.
I can imagine. Yeah, I think it is a common fear. I don't have that fear, but I know many people who do have it, and I know people who said they never had it before, and it suddenly crept up on them when they were not expecting it. But do you feel that by going on these adventures and embracing your fear, facing it, that you're overcoming it, or do you think you are working with it?
I think I'm managing it because every time I go up, every time I'm to a spot that's exposed, I feel it again. And so it's my self-preservation saying there's a long landing on the other side of that edge there, and so I tend to stay away from it a little bit. But if I know it's going to be part of the experience, I have to prepare myself, and I purposely slow down, and I purposely am very cautious and very careful and cognizant of the people around me. And then just because I know that I'm now in a higher risk area. But no,
Yeah.
it has never gone away, and I've had it for decades.
Interesting.
However, I've gotten easier to manage with it because once I know it's there, what happens is I feel these butterflies as I start getting higher and higher and more exposed. And so I can recognize what it is earlier, so I know what it is. And I've actually warned my wife, said, okay, I'm getting a little nervous.
Right.
And then, because she's actually a better climber than I am, in that she has addressed those fears a long time ago, and it doesn't bother her. In fact, if we're out there hiking, she'll walk on the edge of a cliff and admire the view, and then I have to stay back, and then I have to say, please don't get that much closer. So
right.
Right.
Butterflies are coming on. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, I think it's really interesting that you're one thing that you said, and this applies to all fears. So as we talk about other fears, we could pinpoint it again, is that you recognize when it's coming on, and that you even recognize that you have it and you're doing something about it. So, because what's easy to do is to say, I have that fear, so I'm gonna make decisions around that fear so I don't face it, so I don't deal with it. And then where does that leave you?
What happens is if I say I know I'm afraid of heights and I never go on a place that exposes me to heights, all of a sudden I'm in flatland again. And the Puget Sound and the whole United States and the world has spectacular views. Not all the views are from flat ground. In fact, by definition, to get a view, you need to be able to see far distances with nothing in the way. And then usually that's at the top of those pointy things,
Right. Right.
My wife, I think, is addicted to high places. And so if I want to spend time with her, we're going up to high places.
That's great. Maybe that was just fortuitous, or that it's
there's a yin yang to this. It's really strange.
Yeah. So how about you had another fear? I think you had mentioned a few. So what's
okay? I write notes because I'm a project manager engineer, and then the other one is
failure.
Failure, fear of failure. Yeah. And then that one is interesting because my whole career trying to get an engineering degree and getting a master's degree and then getting a job and then keeping a job and then doing a project and finishing the project on time. Every single one of those things I mentioned has the stress that things could go wrong. And then many of the things that could go wrong are out of our control. However, in my world, I'm still held responsible for those things happening. And so there are some times I'm staring up at the ceiling trying to figure out how am I going to get this project, this design done, where we haven't even figured out how to solve the problem yet. And so there's a lot of stress around that.
At one point, when we were discussing this prior, you had said something that I thought was funny. I made a little note, laugh out loud. And it's that when you see how other people work, even working in groups in city council, and you see, well, you feel like, well, I can only do my best, right? That's right. And in giving your best is actually good. That's enough. That's for oftentimes that is what people will recognize you're doing, and then stuff will get done and people will be happy. But then you see others that make mistakes, because we all make mistakes. And you turned it around and you said, I could screw up as badly as they have screwed up too, right? It takes the edge off.
That was actually how I convinced myself that I could be qualified to run for our city council. I saw some crazy decisions. Really kind of, why did they do that? And I'm thinking, okay, so they're human just like the rest of us.
Right.
And And so that kind of helped me to say, okay, if we try to do our best and we're successful, that's wonderful. And if we don't and we're not successful, well, let's pick ourselves up and keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not if you fall down, it's if you forget to get back up. That's when you have failure. And then so I try to surround myself with people who are similar in that mindset, recognizing that if you never try, you'll never fail. Wayne Gretzky's line is you miss 100% of the shots you never take. But if you never take a shot, you never get anything. And so you have to have enough self-confidence in what you want to be able to live with the fact that you may not always get what you want.
Yeah.
There's got to be a song there or something.
Yeah. Probably.
We'll
make a Bridging Minds song. That's my next project. But it's true. It's the mental. So it's the mental language you have with yourself as you're working with your fear. So you're recognizing it. You're going toward it. You're not running away from your fear, and then you're living your life feeling like you're being chased by your fear and trying to avoid it. But you're going toward it. You're working with it. Recognizing it, and then creating the mental dialogue that controls it and makes it rational, because fear tends to be irrational a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. And then if you react to your fear, that usually manifests in panic. Yeah. And then if you're in a place that you're already fearful, then you panic. Then what happens is you lose the ability to rationally think, and that's where you get into trouble.
Right.
I think I shared with you, my son-in-law is an outstanding scuba instructor. He's brilliant. And he and my daughter, when they started dating just a few years ago, he was smart enough to say, hey, how about if I get the in-laws and teach them how to scuba dive? Mind you, we're in our 60s now, so that was just a few years ago. And so to learn something like that late in life, again, is a real stretch. But then what happened was he was outstanding at recognizing that I was having trouble. And he was, as a very good instructor, found a way to calm me down, understand what was worrying me, to the point that for a while, every time I'd go on the water, before I went down, I'd have to say, okay, right out of Dune, fear is the mind killer. Okay, breathe, and then go underwater. And then time after time, because I addressed it and I started realizing what the unknowns were, that was another one I fear. When I figured out, okay, I know I can breathe, I know I can get extra air, I know how to do this, I know how to. The more I learned, the more I became confident with what I was doing. To one point, we were in water that was choppy, and all of a sudden, I kind of looked at the anchor rope as we went down under into the murky water, and I said, "Okay, let's go." I actually remember that I didn't have to say fear is the mind killer.
Right.
So that's exciting.
So that's actually a moment of overcoming. You've maybe surpassed that at that moment anyway, and that's amazing.
Condition. Yeah. Now, mind you, I'm still not qualified for going into caves or going into strange places or outstanding outrages. I don't chase high risk, but at the same time, I'm trying to live within the manage. And then so I said, okay, I can now do it at that level now. And then you asked a question earlier about how do you feel about once that happens, and then once you face, address, manage, and succeed through the fears, there is a grateful, satisfying feeling that you have inside to know, okay. And I kind of feel like there's a balloon around me that every time I push my comfort zone just a teeny bit, my balloon of confidence gets larger. And
oh, that's a nice visual. Yeah, I like that. That works. That, and then your life gets larger too, right? And your experiences and the views you've had of the world, everything gets bigger as you're able to expand out.
If I succumb to all my fear, well, my wife, we live in Washington State, and there are 5 volcanoes: Mount Baker, Glacier Peak, Mount Rainier. You might have heard that one. Mount St. Helens. A lot easier to climb now that it's lost most of its top. And then Mount Adams. All 5 of those are known volcanoes, and my wife and I have climbed all 5 of those, where you really need to be roped up, you need to climb, you need to be very careful, cautious. But I was managing the risk. We always took care of, make sure we picked good weather days. We always go in the summer when it's warm, so there's no crazy storms. So you can still manage the risk, but you can still live your life.
Right.
We've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. We've gone scuba diving, and we visited countries we've never been to before. So it's
now I'm feeling like I need to get out. All right, after this I'm gonna try to book a trip somewhere.
Well, we just got back from Baja like 2 days ago.
Oh man.
and then
Oh,
so whale watching and things like that.
oh, cool. Oh yeah, I'll ask you about that one later. Uh, I have two boys. I think that would appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Well, that's those are great. And when you mentioned the fear of unknown, and I think that one we could tie into the our larger communities and societies in our country, because we tend to gravitate toward what we do know, and oftentimes might even isolate ourselves in what we do know, and then create narratives that aren't based on fact, or that we don't know to be true or not, but we might just go on assumptions that anything outside of what we know is less. So we less than, or we undermine it.
Or bad,
Or
or
bad.
evil. Yeah.
Yeah, we could
If they
demonize it.
don't look like us, talk like us, live like us, they must be different than us, and therefore, instead of trying to understand them, I'm going to assume that they're bad.
Right.
Which one of the things that Mark Twain discovered is if you travel and explore new places all the time, it really interferes with your efforts to be a bigot.
Yeah.
Because you learn that everybody out there wants to take care of their family, they want to raise their life in the way they live, but it happens to be different than ours.
Right.
And
Yeah.
every time we go to a new place,
yeah, the world expands. You're out of comfort zones. But you might find so many other comfort zones outside of your own, and then you start to feel that the world is more of a comfort zone to you. The fears start to diminish the more you know, and allow yourself to grow and interact with people. And then it brings us back to communicate and be willing to have a conversation with a stranger, and whether it's in your community or traveling to a new country. And David, you've been so patient, and I
Not really. I've been enjoying this.
So. Yeah. Okay,
you're not patient when you're having fun, so.
Right? Yeah. Good. How about you and your fear, and what do you want to add?
Okay. First of all, I guess I'll talk about. I have been agoraphobic for many years, and excuse me. Because I did not know how to handle this fear properly, I got into a big hole. It got really bad, and there's things you can do to make a fear better, but if you get into a big hole, it's hard. It's really hard. And this is, for me, it's basically I had a very happy childhood. I felt very safe with my parents. They were so kind. Everything felt safe at home. And when I went to school, things felt kind of crazy. And so there was this very simple sort of thing that developed that if I was in a further away from home, an unfamiliar environment, it just seemed less comfortable for some reason. And so it's a fear of being disoriented. It developed by the time I was 21, where I did not want to be lost. I did not want to, maybe if I'm home, I'm not lost. If I'm away from home, I don't want to have trouble figuring out how to get home. So it's a disorientation phobia, as well as I don't want to be cut off from the love that supports me. So somehow that's the basic phobia. And I had this thing come up last August, I think, where I had to have some surgery, a tooth removed, wisdom tooth. And it's always been really hard for me at the dentist, because one of the things when you have a bad phobia like this, you always want to be aware of how you get out of there if you feel uncomfortable. You want that backdoor exit really firmly in mind. And so sometimes something is going on where, no, you cannot go anywhere. You must, and don't even move. And
right.
At the dentist, I can't move. And so I start feeling kind of lightheaded, kind of wobbly. So I knew I had to have the wisdom tooth removed, or it would really get very bad. And
yeah, I remember you were talking about it a few weeks before, prepping yourself for it.
It was a really bad headache, but I didn't want to get really sick from it. And so here's what I did. I've been taught to visualize things to prepare. I spent many days. I would think about being in the place where the surgery would be
Mhm.
and feeling loved and feeling just fine and peaceful about everything. I would just think, what does it feel like? What does it feel like when I really feel loved? What does it feel like? And it helped that I went over there and I actually went in and say, where is this going to happen? Okay. I'm looking at the place, well in advance, and I'm trying to memorize everything about it so I can bring it into my meditation and just think, uh, if I just thought about the place, just thought about what was going to happen, I could feel a little nervous. But then add the love, add the sense of well-being and all that. And it worked out pretty well. I did my homework,
Yeah.
and
Interesting.
so agoraphobia might be a little hard for a lot of people to relate to, but a lot of people have things that come up, maybe something, some kind of surgery, something that's really scary.
Mhm.
And I would just
What,
recommend, just to do something like that is very helpful.
what is the definition of agoraphobia? What is it exact? Is it a
Well,
fear of being away from home, or
yeah,
did
at
it
first it
on your
comes
own?
from the idea of the marketplace, open spaces, wide
Mhm.
open spaces. It's the opposite of claustrophobia,
Right.
but there's a certain kind of mind, or is it the brain, whatever, that uh, really thinks in terms of geometry and how, well, for me, if there are trees around or some vertical structures, I feel somehow that I'm contained. I don't want something wide open because I feel that, well, it's very strange, but I feel that I'm going to get sucked out into this largeness, something impersonal, something that's not the security of my I guess my house, has the walls and the roof, I mean the ceiling.
Mhm.
Somehow the open spaces are associated with that which is unsafe, that which is unfamiliar, and that which is closed in is associated, at least for me, with that which is comfortable. And I know this is the total opposite of claustrophobia for many, and it's just like, so
Yeah, but does it result in feelings of claustrophobia? Does it make you
it
feel?
actually it can. I don't like to be away from a comfortable place and then confined in a small area necessarily, if that confinement means I might not be able to get back to where
Mhm.
I need to be. However, when I was flying years ago, I don't know, about 1,000 miles or so, it wasn't a long flight. Uh, I was very nervous and I hid in the bathroom because I needed that confinement.
Mhm.
So in that case, I was like, please give me some containment.
Right.
The plane was just felt like it's too wide open. I was too aware of the sky,
Mm,
and the very
right.
thing that some people would say, no, I'm not going to go into that tiny little.
Right. I would not do that, but well, let's talk about. So you worked with the fear. You recognized it. You knew going in what you were afraid of, and pinpointed it, and then worked with it. So it's this same process of, and then I love how you worked with it, because it's I think people don't realize the power of our minds to take a scary situation
Mhm.
or a very lonely situation, and alter your reality by bringing in all the things that actually are a reality to you. Love was a reality to you, warmth, safety, all those are a part of you. They're a part of your cells, your
Mhm.
memory, your experiences. They're part of who you are and why you're such a curious, loving, interesting person, because that love and safety are a part of you. So you called on that and you said, I want to experience that right now. And actually felt, even though you're in a dentist office and you're doing something scary, you were able to feel call on that love, bring it to you, feel it, and feel the warmth as if you were being hugged right there, which is really, really, I think that's so powerful. And it's a tool that maybe people don't think of. They say, oh, meditation, and not for me, or but they don't realize all the different ways meditation can work in our lives and what meditation can be. It's so personal to everyone, and how they use it. So you used it in a way of a visual and a sensation, and I think that's really,
Yes, anything that is something that a person is afraid of that comes into their mind, and then they think, no, I don't want to think about that. Like, a lot of people are afraid of death, or of a loved one dying, or of some kind of thing. And so if something pops into our mind many times, and we just say, no, I don't want to think of that, I don't want to think of that, then we're just, we're basically blocking out our everyday kind of thoughts and everything from that particular issue, so that when we finally are in that situation, it's hard to think of anything except the panic that we might feel. So the trick to devitalize a phobia is to bring as many non-phobic kinds of thoughts and experiences into the thoughts of the phobia when you're not actually triggered by the phobia, if possible.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That, and and maybe, and for everyone, of course, it's different. So they're going to pull from a different moment. You might, Randy, we would pull from being on a mountain and just being blown away by the views and that sense of calm and beauty that exists in our world that might bring you peace when you need it, or
and also the years of training to know how to make myself safe also helps a lot too. The unknown, well, if this can happen, that can happen. After a while, you realize it doesn't, because you're very careful and you're methodical about it. I think that's what his point is too. Is if you, that's why I love listening to him talk about going to a place early, so he can recognize the lay of the land, so he can get some familiarity, some more knowledge, and then understand how the system works. Again, if you know what's going to happen, that alleviates a lot of fear.
Right. Yeah. That's great to highlight that. To, if you can, try to familiarize yourself, even if it's through maybe a video call or just a chat prior to the actual event, or anything to give you a little more knowledge, a little more familiarity, that could make a big difference. Yeah, that was a good move.
What
David.
about when we have to give a speech? I know, Sarah, I'm sure you've had to give presentations, and then we all get nervous about talking in front of people. But I'll bet you've rehearsed your talk. You know exactly what you're going to say. Maybe not the words, but you know your subject so well that you know that any question asked, you'll be able to handle, and then you can go into it with more confidence.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you said that, because
we'll talk about your phobia.
Yeah, okay, I'll get to that. And the best way to give a speech is in dealing with fear. When I started doing speeches, I would really memorize and over prepare. And then I found that the best thing I could do is right before the speech, tear up all my notes and just say, and clear my head of it and say, I'm just going in as myself. I know, I'm confident that what I have to say is in there somewhere and it's going to come out. But certainly, and if you're someone who, if you have a faith, or if you turn to God or to whatever it is that you sometimes hand over your fears to, I just say, God, you can take this, and here we go. Yeah, let's have fun. And then I can shine, because I'm not bound up by.
Well, if you have too many words, you're concentrating about following the path of the words. Where I found when I would give presentations, we use PowerPoint where I was at. So I would just write down bullets. Remember to talk about this and this and this. And then I said, okay, here we go. That's right. The next thing we want to talk about is this. And then I could go off for however long.
Yeah. So it's again, if I think I stuck to every word, I would then be allowing my fear to control me. It would overtake my personality and my maybe spontaneity,
Right.
and then the audience would lose that. But if I work with the fear, I say, okay, come on, fear, let's go. We're going to do this. It's going to be fine, and let's just jump into it, like almost jumping out of a dock into cold water, and then you give yourself that freedom to be who you are.
You're right.
So my fear, actually, I was going to bring up, and it ties into what you were saying, David, when you brought up a fear of illness, and I was also thinking of fear of aging, getting older, because that's something we all are doing at some point, at every point, and a fear of becoming a burden, of loneliness, of illness, and even losing your purpose, because you might feel as you're getting older, you're retiring, or maybe even in this pandemic that your balloon is getting smaller, life is shrinking, how you could take steps to find more purpose, to expand your balloon, to find connections in your community, to ways that you can alleviate your fear of being older or being isolated and needing help from other people. I think it's tough for a lot of our aging population, because our communities aren't set up as well as they should be, from what I see, to help them, to make life easier, even just with icy sidewalks or steps and ramps, or creating jobs that people who have retired would love to be a part of and do, and the opportunities aren't there, and they could be. So there's ways. I would encourage to seek outlets in your community, talk to people, be curious around your city hall, and look for the programs or start the programs, or suggest the programs, the reading groups, even if it's online. Try to find ways to find the purpose, and to find the connections, and to know that there are people out there that are kind and caring and like-minded. And sometimes it just takes walking your neighborhood, sitting out on your front stoop and smiling, and you might start to make a connection. I remember a lonely period that I had living in New York City, where I every day would see a homeless man and would smile, and his smile was so bright and his voice was so cheery every morning, and I just thought it gave me so much a sense of comfort and belonging to the community, and kind of a nice start for my day. I don't even know how much he realizes how much that his smile and cheerfulness meant to me while I was living alone. So those little things not only have an impact, but they create a ripple around you and around the community and the neighborhood. So that can be applied to the fear of aging. And I have a mother now, and I think I'm focused on this because she is ill, and she's staying with us, and she's going through chemotherapy, and she has been a beacon of strength and light for the whole family, that she has actually been the strong one through this past year, and as it is ongoing, of how to live working with your fears. So she's facing a fear of illness and death, and in going through chemo and having to know the cycle of how it's going to feel for her, and the bad days and the good days, and being calm through the medication. And when she's had radiation, the process is very tedious. She has found peace in a passage from the book of James, actually, that says, "Find joy through adversity." And that struck a note with her, and she has made that her purpose. I have this challenge, and I'm facing illness and death, and I am going to be an example to people around me, family, friends, of what it means to really find joy in adversity. So she looks for the the smiles. She looks for the little things. She analyzes the cards that the kids make for her and finds all the details. And she's looking for little things that she can do to feel creative. She's a musician. She's a really active person. So she's had to work within a smaller life now, but yet still is finding the joy and is now an example of strength for all of us. So that is my that was my focus on fear and how you can deal with the ultimate fear of death and turn it into something purposeful. So that's
yeah. Well, I found that I'm in my 60s now, my wife and I are, and my one fear when I was younger was that we would die before our kids were old enough to be on their own, and that was an interesting fear. But once they turned 18/19, 20, 21, that was gone. And then I think the other thing is if you lead a purposeful life, after a while, there's a certain contentment, which is kind of interesting. And then so as you were talking, I was sitting there thinking, how much does it bother me? And now we want to do the things we can before body parts stop working versus dying. And so we just want to live as full a life as we can, as long as we can.
Yeah.
And then we'll just see what happens after that.
Yeah, and you do reach a point of contentment. And I think she has as well. She's writing and focusing on the life she's led, and I think that's a great word for it, a good goal to come to that space of contentment. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think we have to wrap it up because we can talk a lot. But
well, Randy's a lot of fun to talk with. So this has been delightful.
Well, thanks. I really like what you're doing, not only with this podcast, but with the Living and the Bridging Minds. It's been a goal of mine to see if we can't get back to civility and get back to dialogues about differences of opinion and how we can address problems. And so this is wonderful for me.
Yeah, thank you. Bridging Minds, our website is www.bridging-minds.com. And there's a lot there on the site to check out, from merch to help support the group, to political identity tests that we are embracing and launching and working to try to find new terms for identifying ourselves politically that don't create so much judgment and aren't so confining, allows a little bit more individuality and overlap between right and left, because oftentimes we vary on our issues and cross lines. So that's a goal of ours. But yeah, check us all out. And in closing, I just want to say, I think, it's we want to accept our feelings. And I'm just getting in touch with everything that we've been talking about and understand that they might be uncomfortable, but if we go into them with a lot of the goals that we discussed here today and with an open mind and heart in the idea of expanding our balloon, I'm really running with that analogy because I like it. Whatever our life is, it's possible to work with our fears that actually then it's like finding joy in the adversity and then turning them into a positive in our lives. So thank you, David and Randy. And I want to say a thank you to our tech guy, Patrick McGuane, because he's really awesome for pulling it all together. And thank you all for joining us.